Hey, thanks for checking in with this video. I'm making this video for my friends. Several people have asked me to share my experiences being off grid when I went off grid from June 2024 to March of 2025, and some of the lessons that I've learned, the experiences that I've had, some of them deep spiritual experiences and growth. And so this is really for them, anybody on the spiritual path or just waking up to it or wanting to learn more. Yeah, feel free to keep watching. But anyway, I'm going to just keep this pretty low key and casual. Might bounce around a little bit. I've been behind the mic and I'm going unscripted pretty much. So, um, but this first episode, I'll call it an episode. I just want to talk about my decision to leave and to just tap out and leave Philadelphia and go on the road. And somebody was asking me or telling me something like that. Took a lot of courage to do that. And I had to sit on that one for a little bit because to me, it wasn't about courage. It was more about faith for me and the way I operate. And then, I'm going to share some of that in a few minutes of, some examples. But yeah, just taking off and leaving, selling everything and just hitting the road without really a plan, knowing where I'm going to go, knowing where I'm going to end up. Um, I knew I was going to go somewhere, end up somewhere. I had no doubt. I just didn't know where, when, how long it was going to take. So, um, maybe a little bit of courage in there. I might have had a couple of nights where I like woke up in a panic and like, what am I doing? But every time I got rid of a piece of furniture or sold something, I just kept felt lighter and lighter and freer and freer. And it just felt right from a nervous system perspective, which I gauged a lot of my decisions based on nervous system. How's it make me feel? Does it get me pumped up? Is my heart beat a little faster? Am I getting excited about it? Or do I want to stay in Philly? You kind of shrink, start cringing, and um, yeah, that's not a good feeling. So, I listen to, my intuition, I listen to my nervous system, I, follow some synchronicities and stuff. I'm going to share a couple examples of that, but before I get into that, I need to just tell you just straight up my backstory. If you don't know me or if you're not a family member, my family members would know this about me, but I had a, psychic experiences from the age of 5 years old. And my big spiritual awakening came at the age of 15, a sophomore in high school, where basically it became clairsentient, an empath, just floods of thoughts and emotions. I mean, it was horrific and it was a very brutal time. That year, Dark Night of the Soul was about a year and a half, but it's funny. I was in my hometown recently talking to my friend Jim, and we were reminiscing about the old days. And he said, he's, yeah, sophomore year, you just kind of tapped out, huh? I'm like, yeah, I did, and I didn't get into it with him, but Jimmy, if you're catching this, that was a big part of it. And I just shut down. I didn't know how to function in society anymore. I couldn't handle it. And, it, just really self-isolated and, pretty much a isolationist ever since then for the most part. But that's just being an empath. So you start learning about energies, and at that time it's like I got to sink or swim. I got to figure this out. So I did a lot of studying, a lot of reading, a lot of just having to get my mind under control and just shut everything off. You just kind of learn to shut it down after a while. So it got shut down, but kept learning and experiencing and just over the decades of playing with energy. I didn't know anything about energy healing really until I got into pranic healing, um, you know, 40 years later. But still, the inner work, the intuition, the clairvoyance, some channeling and all that is involved, and also synchronicities. And I'll give you an example of a synchronicity um, that helped me. Well, maybe I'll share that in a little bit, but during that period of time, start experimenting with guides. You call them your guardian angel, you call them a guide, spiritual helper, whatever works for you. Back in that day, I think guides was just a term I picked up in a book. I mean, I do believe guides are angels, and I don't think it really much matters what you call them, but they're there, and then you build that relationship. But you start experimenting, asking for help with something, and then, that help comes through. Um, and you thank them, and whenever you need a little bit of help. I mean, I remember this one time, classic story was I had a physics problem in college and I couldn't solve it. And so I just asked for help, help me figure out how to solve this problem. I don't know, a few hours later, the answer just came to me. I mean, I just knew how to solve it, you know, and so it goes. So you always have helpers around. So that builds a lot of confidence when you have successes. So I have to say, pranic healing and orthotic yoga really accelerated my growth, and then be able to really quiet the mind, go deeper, go higher. We're looking at trying to become soul realized, trying to work in our divinity, right? And really just be centered with ourselves. And that really helped out a lot. So synchronicity, yeah, I'm going to talk about that. So I would say in terms of faith, and I want to get to that in a second with the synchronicity, because this wasn't the first time I just took a big leap of faith like that. 5 years ago, I took an early retirement, or I don't know, back in 2021, took an early retirement. I didn't plan it out. I was at a point where I was just done, physically, mentally, emotionally, going through a divorce. My wife was terminally ill. Um, Commuting from Philadelphia to New York 4 hours a day. I mean, it was just a total mess. I mean, you kind of lose yourself when you got so much stress at home, stress at work, stress with the commute. I mean, you just don't have time to sit and think. And that's when, pranic healing and orthotic yoga started coming into my life and really kind of helped me turn things around. But I took a leave of absence. Well, I actually wasn't a leave of absence. I always thought I was going to go back. Um, but I took an early retirement. And at the time I took an early retirement, I had been separated for 2 years, and our divorce had just been finalized. She was still alive, given 2 years to live. And I think the only reason that she finalized the divorce because she thought she was dying like soon. So, but she didn't, not complaining. But she asked me to be friends after that. And I said, yeah, okay, I'll be your friend. And it was at that time, Master Glenn recommended, I'll keep a long story short, but that I'd take care of her, in some fashion. I didn't want to do healing for her, but so I ended up taking care of her physically, taking her to chemo, watching over her. She had bad days. 8 straight days I was there at the house. She didn't get out of bed, didn't eat a single day. And so she was pretty bad at that time. But I started helping her, and she rebounds. She'd get really sick, and she'd rebound a little bit, get sick, rebound a little bit, and but she would trigger me. She just had no respect for any kind of boundaries, and I would blow up. I would yell, and I would get mad, and I would storm off, and I'm like, yeah, I'm done, blah blah blah. Then I'd calm down, and we'd text and chat, and then I'd go back and help her again. And every time through the practice, you have that. Um, Inner reflection from resolution that we do. Just know what you did wrong. How are you going to do better the next time? And I kept improving. And so my blowups got less and less and less. And then, but she continually triggered my boundaries. But I wasn't blowing up anymore. I was just kind of really getting control of that. And understanding my triggers in the process, understanding my boundaries in the process. But it came down to a trip to Africa that I went with her. Um, it was a bucket list trip, and it was, a long trip. And she was sick at the time, really sick again because she bounced up and down. But the second day there, I mean, she's screaming at her lungs, top of her lungs at me, just get out, I don't want you here, blah, mass hysteria. But at the same time, she was just laid out in bed, couldn't move, just like to the point where I was talking to the people that were managing the place about airlifting her out. That's how bad she was. But they ended up giving her some saline drink for major dehydration, and she bounced back a little bit. But it was at that time she's just laying there in bed, can't move, screaming at me, just it hits you deep at that point. It's like, this isn't about me. This is nothing to do with me. And, just the heart opens up and you have that compassion and you have that forgiveness and you have that understanding. Not only is she terminally ill and facing that and dealing with that, but she's had traumas that I know about from when she was young, unresolved. And so you just come to that realization, yeah. And from there, it just operate from a place of love, understanding, compassion, and forgiveness. But that carried with me for not just her, but for everybody. And it's kind of my baseline now. That's the person that I am. That's how I operate and try to be. I'm not always successful, but um, so that was a gift for just following my intuition and leaving the work, getting out of, corporate world for a while. I would never had that gift of growth, right? And just pulling out of the solar plexus into the heart, as we say. And I haven't gone back, So I've learned a lot about the triggers and setting boundaries and keeping boundaries and how important they are. Never really considered it before, right? So the next thing that came out of it for me was working with the American Pranic Healers Association, helping getting that off the ground, building the structure, setting the organization up, and doing that all with some great people and great team. And it was an honor to participate in Master Cho's work in that capacity to help, get that dream of having a professional healing association. And I know there's others, different parts of the world, but I was honored to give back to that and contribute to that for a year. At the same time, I was also doing a show, a live streaming show, Greetings from the Ashram on the Bold Brave TV network, which again, had I not quit my job, I would never have done something like that. Not that I was looking to do it, but they found me and they talked me into it. But it was a great experience. Maybe I wasn't so great at it or whatever, but I learned a lot. And I think if anything, it helped me be more authentic to myself and just put myself out there and people could take me how they want to or not. It doesn't really matter to me. I don't take anything personal and um, certainly not everybody's cup of tea and not everybody's mine. So it doesn't mean that we have to be enemies or hate one another. Just treat everybody with love and respect and move on, right? So that was an amazing thing too that I would never have done. And the third thing that I probably would never have done was take just a year to focus on my pranic healing, pranic psychotherapy certification. That was a year-long thing for me, but at the same time, I also committed just a year just to work out and get my health in order because I really needed to do that. I mean, I was self-healing and getting healings, but I just really needed to put that physical effort in. So it was around that time. Oh, let me just say this too. I also had during that pranic healing cycle therapy certification. Corinthians 6:19 hit me deep too. Don't you know that you're body is a temple of the Holy Spirit given unto thee by God. It is not yours, the body. So I said, oh shit. How many years have I been treating this body like an old honky tonk? So we needed to go through a major renovation because, you got to be strong for that energy to come in and flow. And I was like, man, that hit me so hard. So I've been really trying to take good care of myself physically ever since. Not that I shouldn't have been before, but boy, when you have that realization and that just kind of hits home with you, it's deep and it's like, oh man, I got to really take good care of myself. Um, so, but the synchronicity, comes in when, we were doing a healing pod and somebody was talking about the medical medium, which is somebody who writes recipes and smoothies and all these things and different ingredients in order to take care of different ailments of the body and all that. So, but somebody else had sent me a book like 2 days later. So I get this okay, medical medium here. I need to pay attention to it. So I did. I had an accountability partner, good soul sister of mine. And we checked in every day as we were, making sure we are staying on track with the diet 30-day challenge. So I dropped a good 20 pounds from doing that. And it really got me, not where I needed to be, but, to the level I am now, which I'm still working on, dropping a few more lbs. But, all these things would not have happened for me had I not made the decision to do what I did and quit working and just kind of focus with me and go with the flow. And, you know, all these things happen along the way that I wasn't expecting, but I think they're all worked out pretty well for myself. Right. So I have a lot of faith, go with the motions. I have a lot of faith with reading the cosmic signs, the working with my guides, knowing they're there, knowing they're helping me every step of the way, just higher level beings, Master Choa, Jesus, archangels, they're all there. They're all there to help. So I have utmost faith in that. But my faith, yeah, I told Master Glenn, I think, we invoke in full faith, right? And then what is it full faith? Oh, mine's what, 80, 85%, 70%? I don't know what it is, but I don't think it's full faith. So I started thinking about that too. And so why not keep testing it out? Just life is experiential. So you have to experiment with it, just see what makes true, makes sense to you. And, it's good to get validations of, uh, your psychic thoughts, or, if you're emotionally attached or you're an empath like I am, thoughts and emotions. I mean, I've been validated a bunch of times. I got a couple stories I can share, but I'm not going to bore you with the details right now unless you're interested. But anybody, healing pod that I've worked with over the years, they could tell you. But so the decision to leave Philly was, I didn't know where I wanted to go. I didn't know where I wanted to be. It's first time in my adult life. I had no directions. All I knew, I didn't want to be in Philadelphia anymore. So I sold everything and I said, "Hey, let's see where um, see where it goes." So basically, that's a little of my backstory, who I am. I'm coming through, this as a more as a Arhatic yogi because it's, deep spiritual. I think transformation for me, compared to where I was and to where I am now, it's been a blessing. And I'm going to share more on that. I don't know how many episodes I'm going to do, but I am going to start, with taking off and uh, Master Glenn again. Yeah, he's so influential to me. I don't see him a lot, but whenever I do, he's very powerful, and he always looks out for me, and I love that man. He's I want to be to the headspace that I'm at right now without him. That's for sure. But Wessock a couple of years ago, just wrote right viewpoint. He signed my book, right viewpoint. So I'm like, okay, I need to focus on right viewpoint. I got it. So I had to focus on right viewpoint when I got to where I was going and settling down. Because I'm telling you, sitting with yourself for 8, 9 months straight, minimal contact, no television. I mean, I had a couple friends I met along the way, but for the most part, it was a lot of isolation and solitude, self-reflection, and things like that. But I'm going to get it more into that in the next episode. So anyway, that's kind of the genesis of it. Just got to follow your gut, follow your instincts, practice stillness the best you can. I'm going to get more into that as I move along. But we know the tools, we know the teachings. Gotta not intellectualize it, and you have to experience it. You just have to practice the teachings. You gotta be the teachings, bottom line. Um, it's paradoxical, but you gotta go slow to go fast. So just be calm, be still, be present, and I will be catching you on the next one. All right. Thanks for checking it. Thanks for checking this out. All right. Appreciate it. Bye.